Hi everyone, you're watching the Asian American Herald, a new media network featuring the Asian Americans of New York. You can also watch a recording of this show and all of our previous episodes from our Facebook page, Asian American Herald of the Capital District. My name is Shruti Natanmai, and I'm a student at the Fashion Institute of Technology, writer and creative who's born and raised in the Capital Region. Tonight, I'm super excited to speak with Alexis Bhagat, the executive director of the Friends and Foundation of Albany Public Library and board member of the Albany Free School. Alexis, welcome to our show.
Hi, well, I'm glad to be here. Thank you so much, Shruti.
Of course, it's my pleasure. So I'd like to start by asking you to take a minute to introduce yourself a bit more and tell our viewers about your background. Like, where did you grow up? What are some of your interests?
Sure. Well, I'm from New York City. Um, I was born in Manhattan. My father is from a Punjabi Sikh family from Lahore. They moved to India when he was 6 during partition to Ambala. My mother is an American from a Polish Catholic family in Pennsylvania, and my mom and dad met in Greenwich Village in 1969, and I was born a few years later. Um, my parents both became Buddhists, and that's the religion that I've grown up with. And the Grafton Peace Pagoda here in Grafton, New York, is my Sangha. And my interests are various. This year, it's mainly my garden because pandemic life has led me to just spend so much time in my garden as I've been home with my kids. I love growing sunflowers and vegetables. I'm also totally dedicated to nuclear disarmament, supporting the nuclear ban and eliminating nuclear weapons from this world, and ecological transition issues. And
Sure. Diverse plate of interest there.
I
That's
love books.
awesome, though.
As you can see, I love books, and I work in a library.
That's awesome. I mean, it's good that you have things to like keep you occupied, especially when you're at home, and gardening's a great way to do that. So
Yeah.
that's awesome. So did you have a clear idea of kind of the career you wanted to pursue from a young age, or did you determine that and your skill sets along the way?
Oh, definitely. When I was 8 years old, I was sure I was going to be an astronaut.
Okay.
I had the whole route planned. I was going to like go to MIT for aerospace engineering. I really wanted to go to space camp in Huntsville, Alabama, but my family never got it together to send me there. But I would always go to New Jersey to different science camps to prepare me to be a great engineer because I had glasses. And you can't be a pilot if you have glasses, so you have to go like the engineering mission specialist route. But yeah, I had the whole career path of becoming an astronaut very clear in my mind until I went to Stuyvesant High School. And, part of my career path towards being an astronaut was going to MIT or Caltech. And when I was in ninth grade, I met the other kids who were definitely going to go to MIT or Caltech. And I was like, you know what? That's not me. And so then I really started to shift my focus while at Stuyvesant into writing. I started just getting much more interested in literature and writing poetry and going to poetry readings downtown. When I was in 12th grade is when I started organizing my own poetry readings. Famously, in 1994, I had like a series of we had been doing poetry readings in the park in Tompkins Square Park, and it was really hot that year. And so we were trying to find a place with air conditioning, and we were all teenagers, and so like cafes didn't want to host us, and I would talk to bars and they were interested in hosting poetry readings, but they couldn't do one that had a lot of teenagers. So we started to do them in ATM bank lobbies. And we did it like once a week, and because they were air conditioned.
Yeah.
And that was a great series, which I did when I was 19 years old. And yeah, and then I sort of just kept working in literature and in the arts, and my career path sort of unfolded from there.
For sure. Yeah, the ATM is such a clever use of space. Wow. That's awesome though. So what kind of drew you to libraries in particular? I mean, I know you had a history of liking literature and writing and whatnot, but what exactly drew you to working in a library setting?
Totally chance. I'd worked in the arts all my life. I've been mostly worked as an assistant to different artists or worked in arts organizations, and the art world is like totally unremunerative and sadomasochistic and a big drag. You have to, it's like a religion, where you're supposed to devote your whole life to your work and to the ego of your master. And people, it's hard to do that when you have a family. So my wife and I both moved to Albany from New York City right before our daughter was born. And at first I was still working for the artist who I'd been an assistant to in New York City, and I had a book selling business, which was not doing so well because book selling is an industry that's gone through a lot of rapid transformations over the last 15 years. So anyway, I got a position working as the director of an art center here in Albany called Grand Street Community Arts, which is right in my neighborhood on the corner of Grand Street and Madison Avenue. And I was only the director there for like less than a year. It was just like a really difficult time, and I had to resign. And right around the time when I resigned, the library was looking for a new director for the foundation. And I applied, and they selected me, and then that became that became my life at that time. But yeah, I didn't have a background in libraries, so.
Yeah, no, that's awesome though. And kind of what has kept you there? Like, what part of working in a library right now is your favorite or something that you look forward to?
Sure. Well, I mean, as a new parent, I rediscover, as many new parents experiences, I rediscovered the library.
Yeah.
Before working at the library, I had like two main experiences of the library, which was as a child, going and discovering children's books, or just spending time in the children's room in the library when I was a small child, or then in high school, just finding required texts to write papers and doing research. And then as an adult, using, as a kind of in the art world, as a scholar, I would go to the Performing Arts Library in New York City, which is located at Lincoln Center, and use the collections at that library a great deal. But then when I became a new parent, I just re-experienced all the wonderful things that libraries do for families, providing a framework for you to think through how to deal with technology with your kids, providing a context for you to meet other parents of kids your same age that aren't just from your school, or if you have a baby and you're not in schools yet, you could go to, sorry about that, someone's driving by with a motorcycle.
Oh, no, it's okay.
It's pretty loud. Vroom. Okay, I think he's gone now. So yeah, meeting other parents with who have babies the same age at story time. Story time is just such a wonderful community that you have, and then finding wonderful children's books to share with your child, and spending time in the playrooms there. So when I applied to work here, my daughter was 2, and I'd already just really fallen in love with the Albany Public Library and all of its branches. It really became the home away from home that I had with my daughter. And so the motorcycle has made me lose track. So you should restate your question if I lost the thread there.
No, I think you answered it. That's great that the library kind of serves as something that you share with your daughter and that you experienced, and you kind of are passing that experience on almost. And rediscovering whatever what it means to you, which is great. And
well, libraries have changed so much since when I was young, because when I was young, there was still the shh, but they are now such vital and interactive places where, they're the main provider of wireless technology for people. And they, the Albany Public Library, provides like before coronavirus, provided like 10,000 programs a year. For all kinds of education, tax preparation, job readiness, a wide variety of programs that I don't remember libraries providing so much when I was young. They've really transformed in the last decades.
For sure. Yeah. So currently you're the executive director of the Friends and Foundation of Albany Public Library. Can you kind of expand upon what that role is and kind of what you do in that role?
Sure. Yeah, the Friends and Foundation is that's our new name this year. We just merged the Albany Public Library Foundation and the Friends of Albany Public Library, both merged to become a united organization supporting the Albany Public Library. The Friends are an old society, at least 75 years old society dedicated to books and authors that runs a weekly book review every Tuesday. And they've done other programs as well in the past, but that's their primary program at this time. And the Albany Public Library Foundation has an annual gala and does an annual fundraising appeal direct to people in Albany to raise money to provide funding for innovative programs at the library, which are proposed by library staff. So my job is mainly to run the annual appeal, sending all those letters that you'll get in December if you sign up for our mailing list. If you visit ffapl.org and sign up for our mailing list, you will get an email or a letter in December asking for money. And so I write those letters and send them. And we organize our annual gala, which is this year on October 17th. And that's our most important fundraiser. And we always celebrate a local writer. This year we're celebrating the author Elisa Albert. She wrote a wonderful book called Afterbirth. And I have transformed the gala and that award that we give to someone into kind of a year-long celebration of the writer. So we announce our writers who we celebrate in May. I've brought in like a formalization of the process of selecting the authors who we honor. So we get nominations from patrons in December. We have a review process in January where we narrow down who these nominations are and then make the selection in February and announce that selection in April or May. And the other thing that I've done is before the money that we raised from the annual appeal, we used to just give to the library in a lump sum at the end of the year, and that just went into their budget. But the library has a $7 million budget, which comes from tax dollars, and our gift is about $20,000. So we wanted to really have an impact. So, I mean, $20,000 compared to $7 million is a pretty big difference. So we set up what's called our internal grant program, and that for that program, librarians propose small pilot projects which they would like to produce that don't fit in their normal budget. And so we can give money directly to librarians for these short-term innovative pilot programs that could potentially become permanent library programs. So we funded the Teen Chef program, which is was an after-school nutrition program at the Delaware branch, where once a month teens would come and learn to cook nutritious, healthy food. Gosh, I should think of all the other things that we've run, but I can't. We also fund the visual art program, which takes place at the Pine Hills branch of the library, because that's not the sort of program that should be funded by taxpayer dollars. So that's paid for directly by the Friends and Foundation of the library.
That's awesome. There's so many different things that go into that job. Then that's incredible that you're able to kind of bring all those things together and for the community. That's great. So prior to holding that position, you've held a variety of other positions such as creative director and consultant, but can you speak on how the skills that you attained whilst in those positions kind of factor into your work today?
Sure. Well, there's two really important skills that I guess three important skills that I bring from my circuitous career path in the art world into my current job. So the first and most important, and that's most important for everybody in the 21st century, is just project management. Figuring out how a project unfolds in time, how team members undertake the different tasks of a project. And so in the art world, whether you're staging an exhibition or just planning the shipping of an exhibition. It's a project management task that involves breaking it up into discrete parts and having them happen on time to connect with the other team members. So that is a really important skill that everybody should have, and that the art world is a wonderful training ground for. The other that I bring from the art world is grant writing. I've worked in different nonprofit arts organizations and have just learned the mechanics of grant writing, and so the way that you create template language and deal with the contract satisfaction of a grant. And the third is similar to project management, but more specific, and that's just like the art and tradition of being an impresario. And this is kind of a skill that you can get from literature or from theater or from music, which is just figuring out what, and in the corporate world is usually referred to as event management, but figuring out it's distinct from being an impresario is distinct from being a project manager, because you're really thinking about the way an event unfolds. Who are the supporters of that event, and how do you make them feel cared for and recognized, and find support for an event, and then create a grand event that people can come and take part in and feel good about. And so those are the kind of 3 skills that I gained in my art career.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I totally agree. Project management, I feel like no matter what industry you're in, that's kind of in the spotlight right now.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's great. So you're also on the board of so many different positions and contributions to your community, but you're also on the board of the Albany Free School. So would you be able to tell our viewers kind of what exactly the program entails, how you became part of it?
Sure. The Albany Free School is how I first ended up in Albany. So I actually left New York City to study in Vermont. And my first job when I graduated college was as a teacher at the Albany Free School, back when I was 24 years old. And I was a teacher there for 2 years, and then later moved back to New York City. But that's how I first came to Albany. And the Free School is the oldest inner city democratic school that's still in operation. So it was founded in 1969. This was going to be our 50th year. And the principle of it is really letting children be themselves, honoring that wildness and individual nature of the child, and letting them develop at their own pace and in their own unique and individual way. If you think about, so standardized testing is the latest manifestation of the principle of standardization at the heart of public schooling, right? So industrialization carries a whole principle of designing things to specification, and public schooling very early on was thinking about pupils as being designed to specification, and that's where the careful creation of curricula come from, to create standardized subjects who come out of those schools. So at the Free School, we have no standardized testing, and children learn what they want to learn at their own pace. So that means that some kids don't learn to read when they're 6. At public school, all school children should learn to read when they're 6, and they don't. If not, they'll be held back. Children at the Free School might learn to read when they're 4 or 5, or might learn to read when they're 7 or 8, because it unfolds at their individual pace. The most important aspects of the school are really that this freedom operates because of a radical commitment to conflict resolution, to true democratic conflict resolution. So there's a tradition or an institution there called the council meeting. So when children have a conflict between each other, which free people will often do, which free children who are not sitting at their desks will often do, whenever there's a conflict that they really can't resolve on their own, or just within their own circle of friends, they can call on the entire school community for what's called a council meeting. Someone rings a bell, and everyone stops everything, and the person who called the council meeting has to run throughout the whole building and shout, council meeting, and all the kids have to stop their activity and come and assemble in a circle. and the students follow the Robert's Rules of Order. They elect a chairperson. The chairperson asks the person who called the council meeting what their problem is, and then the chairperson deliberates a discussion while they find a solution to solve that problem. So the kids learn to summon their community to their aid at a time of trouble, and to negotiate politically, you could say, with their community how to solve their problems as a before the whole collective. And so this creates a very strong political education of social and political education for the students. Other important aspects of the school are that the kitchen is really a part of the school. Kids can help to prepare and serve food if they want. We have a vibrant garden program that grows food that's used in the school garden program. We're the caretaker of a large forest in Grafton, and students usually go out there once a week. And all these things we are uncertain about all of them this year in 2020 with coronavirus, so it's hard to speak about these things. The school is going to be opening this year, but it's not going to be the normal free school. We don't even know how council meeting will work because we have to maintain strict cohorts. So we have 3 different cohorts of students who all have separate entrances, separate bathrooms, and who never interact. So what will that mean for a council meeting? We have our land in Grafton, and we're not going to be going there because we can't all get in a car in different cohorts together. We are not serving food this year, and so students are all going to bring their food from home. So we're open this year, and we're bringing the important DNA of conflict resolution, and the other aspect of our culture is that we have kids can run and have free play, but we're going to do that within strictly separated cohorts and with separate entrances. And so we're very uncertain about how it's all going to work, but we're open and we're still enrolling. If anybody is interested in finding out more, they can go to albanyfreeschool.org, and there's an enrollment page there, and there's information about our COVID preparation plans and about how to enroll. So.
Yeah, for sure. That's amazing. And I mean, it must be very difficult to try and maintain the heart and like core of the school while following all these restrictions, and kind of libraries and schools, universities, everyone's kind of in that tough spot of how to go about things so that it's safe and educational and the social life is intact, and it's very sticky situation, but that's great that you're able to go forward while maintaining the core values of the school. Yes. So going forward, how do you hope to see the Albany Free School kind of grow, either in the resources offered or in some other form?
Well, I mean, last year, as I mentioned, this year we just completed was our 50th year. We had a big fundraising campaign planned, and it all just sort of got suspended when we did our COVID preparations. But our 50th anniversary campaign was provoked because we just received several buildings and properties from an organization called the Friends of the Free School. I have to dismiss that. There's an organization called the Friends of the Free School, which made it possible for us to stay so independent. And the Friends of the Free School has just scaled back its operations, and they gave several buildings to us that are adjacent to the school building. So we want to create what we envision as a free school campus, which would be this larger campus, including our old historic building and these new properties that we've received. That could be a real 21st century building. I mean, our building dates from the mid-19th century with very small classrooms. It's not handicapped accessible. And so we really want to make an accessible space that's a model of historic preservation, but also of 21st century design. And so that's kind of the long-term vision right now. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
I'll leave it there because we have to just make it through this year of coronavirus to get back on track with that. So.
For sure. So, switching tracks a little bit. So there's no question that libraries have kind of served as a place for studying, reading, a wide range of community events and learning activities, as you had stated earlier, and provided communities with a vast number of resources. And as a result of coronavirus, libraries have been required to close their doors, only now slowly reopening, and even that in a very restricted manner. So even without the buildings themselves, what resources does the Albany Public Library have to offer for members of the community, whether it be online or in some other
Sure.
form?
Well, first of all, I would urge everybody to just visit albanypubliclibrary.org to find out, or if you're in surrounding areas, just visit the website of your local library to find out what they're offering at this time. You'll get the best and most up-to-date information. The Upper Hudson Library System, which is the federation of the 36 libraries in Albany and Rensselaer counties, you can visit their catalog online and order books that will be delivered to your library, and you can pick them up curbside with an appointment in Albany, or at your library if you're in a suburban or rural location whose libraries are open for picking up your books. And it's really wonderful the way that people can reserve and pick up their books directly. You don't have to browse the shelves. You can still access the catalog. While I'm talking to the Asian American Herald, I will just mention that there's a wonderful Chinese language collection in the Albany Public Library. So if anybody has been looking for Chinese language books or Spanish language, we've several languages in the collection, but we have got a great Chinese language collection. You can order books to pick up. The Albany Public Library is providing virtual programming, and if you visit albanypubliclibrary.org, you can visit the calendar and see the latest schedule of all of the virtual programs that can be tuned into via Zoom. There's also audiobooks and ebooks. There's no reason to get your audiobooks and ebooks from Audible or buy them from Amazon. You can get them via the library using the Overdrive application. You can download Overdrive or Libby and log in to the library with your library card and have access to thousands of books. Also, I will mention to the Asian American Herald that anyone in the state of New York can get a library card at the New York Public Library, which has a very immense collection of audiobooks and ebooks in many Asian languages, in Bangla, in Hindi, Urdu, Chinese, and Korean. So anybody in the whole state of New York can access those materials. You just have to go to the New York Public Library and sign up for a library card, which is very easy to do electronically right now in COVID time. Normally, you had to go down and show your ID or your tax form or something to prove your residency, but it's easy to do that now.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. So I have one last question for you.
Okay,
now that we are running a bit short on time.
Okay.
So do you feel that as a result of the pandemic, the library system, or Albany Public Library more specifically, will be permanently altered in some way?
Of course it will. The library will be permanently altered. All workspaces will be altered. All of our public spaces will be altered. And you should save that for another show and maybe find some architects who are talking about how workspaces are changing. One thing that Albany Public Library that's doing that's great is many of the COVID health precautions are going to be permanent in the wintertime to keep the staff safer from flu season in the future. But if you look at how quickly many technologies around automation and touchless interaction have rolled out, these technologies have been waiting for a moment to launch. In 2014, there was an amazing book by Martin Ford called Rise of the Robots, which predicted massive automation leading to massive unemployment in the next 5 years. And everybody wondered how on earth these things would happen. But I think that the pandemic is illustrating just how it's going to happen. It's going to happen very quickly under the cover of a crisis. We're going to be paying attention to coronavirus. Meanwhile, jobs performed by human beings are going to be disappearing in large scale. And be great to get Andrew Yang on this show, and he could talk more about how automation is quickly unrolling. And I guess I'll just leave it there. But all public spaces, all employment is going to be affected by the coronavirus. We're never going back to the status quo.
And that's an extremely interesting point to think about, something that a lot of people probably haven't been thinking about because, as you said, there's an actual pandemic going on, and once that kind of dies down, hopefully, or is controlled a little bit, this will come to light, and that is a whole nother topic to discuss.
It's a very big topic. Yeah.
For sure. So thank you. Thank you so
Thank
much for your
you.
time and all the information that you've shared with me and our viewers. Thank you everyone for joining us this evening on the Asian American Herald. I'm Shruti Natanai, and our wonderful guest for today was Alexis Bhagat. The Asian American Herald is a Facebook-based news media outlet dedicated to discussing topics and building community amongst Asian Americans in New York. Please send us your story ideas and look for the recording of this show on our Facebook page. Have a good evening and thank you again.
Thank you, Shruti. It was wonderful speaking with you.
You too. You too. Thank you.